Thanks for joining us today. So my name is Maruan Sahyoun, and to give you a little background, so we're still around in working with Adobe tools and especially the lifecycle software. And on the other hand, I'm also involved in the PDFBox project. And as we heard today about the PDF specification and how the PDF 2.0 is built as part in a community process, I thought I introduce you a little bit to how PDFBox is really developed and started, because that's also a community process. So hopefully it provides some insight for you how a community process helps us developing a library to implement a standard which is also developed as part of a community process. So the main picture here is what I would call it's a community-driven development process. And I wanted to introduce you very quickly into Apache, the Apache Software Foundation. Who knows Apache, Apache Software Foundation? Hands up. Okay, some. Then a little bit about PDFBox, what it does, how we develop it, and the challenges we're facing. And some of the challenges were already introduced by my colleagues here from iText. So we have the same view. When the Apache Software Foundation was founded, the idea was to serve the development community. And, to serve the development community is very helpful for us as a project within the Apache Software Foundation, because we have an environment, service, version control systems, but also an environment, for example, on the legal side. And one of the important things here is the license. The Apache Software Foundation uses a license called Apache Software License. And that's an open source license, and it has some benefits because it's a very liberal and business-friendly license. What that means to you is that you can include the software from all the Apache projects. You can include the software into your own projects without the need, for example, like you have in the GPL, without the need to have your own software under the same license. So you can sub-license it, and you can make it part of, for example, non-commercial and commercial products, which is very important for a lot of our users. For us as a project, because the Apache Software Foundation gives us a home, we as developers, we can focus on the code. As I said, there's version control systems, there's bug tracking software. So all of that is given to us. There are test servers, build tools, all of that is given to us so we can focus on making that project. And the project I'm talking about is Apache PDFBox. You have a screenshot of the latest homepage. And that software, the main focus is it's a Java library to help you work with PDF files. And the capabilities you have is you can create PDFs from scratch. You can merge PDF files. So for example, if you have multiple PDF files from different sources and you would like to assemble them into one PDF, you can merge that, or you could also add attachments to a PDF. Of course, you can split a PDF file if you want to. You can extract the content. That's one of the main use cases of PDFBox, is in text extraction. For example, if you have Lucene, that's a very common search engine. Who knows about Lucene? Some of you. Typically, PDFBox is used as the tool in the background to extract the content of PDF files. You can fill out forms. In the upcoming tool release we're currently working on, you can also fill out XFA forms. Currently it's limited to Acro forms, to the old PDF forms, where XFA is a newer XML-based forms technology. You can validate PDF. You can convert it to image files, and you can sign it. So a lot of different use cases, but as I said, it's a low-level library. So it's a programmer's tool from programmers for programmers to work with PDF files. So the question for us as a community is, how do we create software that matters for our users? One of the ways we're trying to do this is we do this through an open and very public communication. The communication around the project is organized on mailing lists. There are 2 mailing lists. The most common one is users at PDFBox Apache.org, where all the users can discuss around issues they have, new functionality they would like to see, etc. around PDFBox, and all of that is public. So you can subscribe to that mailing list, and you can see what others are adding to that, and everyone can participate in that communication and help others resolve issues. Then we have the bug tracker, again an open tool, so everyone can look into the bugs, make comments after a short registration process. So again, very open. And so we're using that open communication tools we have to help others understand what's going on in the project. So there's nothing like a hidden time scale. Everything, every bug, every enhancement request we're getting, that's part of the bug tracker, as well as release planning. So you're able to see what's the next upcoming release and what's already fixed in that release. Sometimes there are different opinions, like should a feature be added, shouldn't a feature be added? Do we go out with a new release, or do we need to hold back because there are some bugs which needs to be resolved? And for that to resolve or to make decisions about such questions, there's a voting process. And that voting process is very important for us, because that voting process ensures that the core developers agree on functionality, and the core developers agree on whether a new release can go out or not. So everybody has a share in saying, okay, we want that to go out. Or a particular developer could say, okay, I would like to have that release being held back, but then he needs to say why does he want to have that held back. So, as I said, a very open development process. And everyone can contribute to PDFBox. So there is a set of core developers. Currently there are 10 to 14 people who are able to take source code and check in source code, which means that they will change the product. But individuals outside or companies outside, they can contribute in the development of that library. For individuals, there's what is called ICLA, an individual contributors license agreement. For companies, we have a company license agreement for larger contributions. And for example, one of these contributions was a PDFA1B validation, which was contributed a while ago by Atos Origin. Currently, we have a number of contributions for the conversion from PDF to image formats by Kühn and Wei, who are using PDFBox to convert PDF to AFP, for example. And PDFBox is one of the tools used inside. Again, if you have a particular need and you see, okay, PDFBox can handle the job, but there is a missing feature, you have the opportunity to add that feature to PDFBox by contributing the code to our project. So very often we hear the question, is there a release cycle? Are there any specific topics you would like to cover in the next release? Or now with the upcoming PDF2 specification, do we have any plans against that PDF2 specification? And I would say no, because the development process is very demand-driven. So the developers or the community, they decide, or they say, okay, what's missing? What do we would like to? What needs to be part of the next release of PDFBox? So the coverage is typically that PDFBox wouldn't cover the full specification, because that's not the target of our development process. The target of our development process is to ensure that the users of the PDFBox library can fulfill their use cases. And because some of the use cases are very common, for example, signing a PDF or merging PDF or filling out a form, and other use cases might not be so common, that reflects our adoption of the PDF specification. So as we heard, the PDF specification in one of the introductory speaks, it's a very lengthy document. Of course, there's some room for interpretation, but overall we would say that the PDF specification is a very good specification. But at the end of the day, the real world matters. And as we heard, not all PDFs are according to the specification. So one of the questions for us as a developer is, now we have tools like the Adobe Reader or Adobe Acrobat, is the Adobe Reader, is it good or is it evil? Is it a curse or is it a blessing for us? Because we will get a number of files from the outside world where people say, oh, well, I can open that file in the Adobe Reader, but it's not working with PDFBox. Why is that the case? It must be a valid file because Reader was able to open that. A very good thing would have been if Adobe would have stayed to their own specification and said, okay, if I have a file which is not in line with the specification, I complain and I don't open that. But because of, and you're already shaking your head, but I don't think that would suit the Adobe Reader customers. And so we have the situation today that the Adobe Reader covers more than is described and written down in the specification. Who can pick that error in that XREF table lines here? Any ideas? Okay, I give you a hint. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the 5th line.
In German, we use 00 sometimes for toilet.
Pardon?
In Germany, we sometimes use 00 to point to the toilet.
Yes. And that's.
I can only speak for German.
That's the case with that XREF table too. As we've seen in the earlier sample, the toilets typically has 3 entries here, and as you can see, the 5th line, there are 4 entries. Adobe Reader was able to open that, so we needed to fix it. Okay, now PDFBox is also able to open that, and there is a small command, PDFBox issue number 4 something. We had to fix that. Sometimes we get PDFs like these, and the error is not really visible here. And the reason for the error here was that the length of the stream and the length which is encoded in the dictionary were different. So typically if you have a stream, you have a dictionary saying, okay, the stream here, that's 35090 long. But the stream wasn't. The dictionary entry is meant as a hint because it's much easier to read the whole stream in one. And you needn't go through stream, end stream, because there could also be the verb end stream within the stream. So which makes it difficult to decode it, because you would say, okay, my stream is at the end, but it isn't, because it was the content of the stream itself. So the dictionary should give you the information about the stream length, which wasn't correct in that case. Another XREF issue, and a number of other issues with that file. What's wrong with that XREF? That's one line. Normally all the entries in the XREF table should go on individual lines. A small error, but if you don't handle it properly in your library, of course you're not reading the entries correctly. So one decision demanded by our users, maybe not from us as a developer, is as long as people say, and we test it obviously, as long as people say, okay, I can open it in Reader, and Reader doesn't have any issues, we also try to handle it. So the PDF specification, of course, is part of PDF, but the Adobe Reader, to some extent, has also been is now also to some extent part of the PDF specification, because all the workarounds which are inside the Adobe Reader are demanded by the users of PDF files. So for us as the developers of a PDF library, the specification is one part, and testing it with the Adobe Reader is another part of making sure that the library handles the PDF files around. And that brings me to the questions, because it's a developers session here. So what are the questions and you might have, and some more insight I could give you around a development process? None? Okay. Go ahead.
One question I was going to say is when you have when you're dealing with PDF files, and there is a certain amount of domain knowledge that you need in order to actually understand how PDF files work. And I suspect that some of the reasons that other tools have these issues, like XREF tables, are all on a single line, is they are employing developers who are not 100% conversant with the spec. So I wondered how you managed to make sure that your developers didn't fall into that trap of and actually had a detailed understanding of the spec. So you didn't actually find that you were creating a problem as opposed to just solving the problem.
I wouldn't say that we're not creating the problems. As we are human beings, I think we also make errors. And the other thing is that if it comes to PDFBox is a very low-level library, so it has two different layers, a very low-level layer and a higher-level layer. So what we try to do on the high-level layer is ensuring that the bits and bytes we're writing are consistent, but as you have a low-level manipulation, people can go ahead and do a lot of things which might not be correct with regards to the specification. If you work on that level, it's necessary that you understand the specification and make sure that you're writing PDFs which are in line with the spec. On the higher level API, we try to make sure if we don't introduce bugs, it's sure that it follows the specification. Yeah? But there might be bugs in PDFBox like there are in other libraries. So it could be that PDFBox is creating an error in a PDF file. Yeah. But typically the core developers understand the PDF specification. And we have some lively discussions about it.
I have a question. What I like a lot about PDFBox is the built-in validation piece. So at least if you want, you can listen to the bug reports that you get when you process a file in PDFBox. And now comes my question.
Okay.
We have other validation tools. None of them is perfect, but we have a couple of tools for validated PDFA, for example. And at least several of them are relatively good. They have a relatively comprehensive coverage of the PDFA rules.
Yes.
Some of the PDF rules are around xref tables and correct begin and end of an object and things like that. And I do know that several of these tools do work. They find errors. Did you observe any change in the number of bad files over the last 5-6 years since these tools have been introduced to the marketplace? Or is it just as bad as 5 or 7 years ago?
No, I would say that the quality of the tools went up, and so the number of errors went down. If I look at the, I think we were involved in the in a survey done by PDFlip guys in 2008 with various products, and I think if you look at the validation results at that point in time and the validation results now with newer releases of the software, the quality improved. For example, if you look at PDFBox, we pass the test suites by the PDF Association and also by the PDFlips. Sometimes we have files where, for example, our validation doesn't pass, so we need to look into the specification, and we have corner cases. But that's again to that. Okay, who's using what within PDF? And I think to have a full coverage, I don't think that's possible, because there will always be a file which some combinations which are not covered in the test suites. But I think the test suites, they helped improve the quality a lot. And at the beginning there were no test suites, and I think that was causing the differences in the validation results. And I think from the, if you look at the early presentation where the guy from Coburg said, okay, he was using 4 different validators and came to different results. And on the other hand, if you look at the target or one of the good design goals of the PDFA specification, to say it should be transparent and it should be easy to check the content of a PDF, I think there's still a gap. We're not there yet to fulfill that.
So actually, I wasn't sure I was going to ask the question, but since it follows up nicely with what Olaf was saying, I'm just curious. What do you guys, because it's something that comes up frequently in a lot of PDF-related development discussions, what do you guys do in the PDFBox project around unit testing? So that as you're doing your development, I know it's very common in the open source world to require unit tests as part of commits. Apache is certainly very big on that, and on some of their other projects. So I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about what, if any, unit tests or other related procedures you guys have in place to ensure that changes don't break other things, or that you're keeping either to spec or file validation or whatever. So anything you can comment on.
Of course, we have unit tests. Could we enhance our unit tests? Yes. I think there are sometimes areas in the library, because it's grown and it has a very long history, where the test coverage is not at the point we would like it to be. But one of the current strategies is that all the changes, they are typically also reflected through a unit test. What we also did is that some of the developers who concentrate on the rendering part of PDFBox, they do unit tests with the older release and the newer release, and compare the resulting images pixel by pixel and see whether the pixels are different, and then they come up. So it's not only checking against the specification or PDF itself, but also checking the end result. or for example checking the text extraction, whether the text extraction in older releases and the text extraction in newer releases, whether that matches. As a community process, I would say that that's something we're demanding or also requesting from contributors, but that's an area where we can really improve. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so you know me, I'm Bruno Logi. I wrote my first PDF library in '98 and I released iText in 2000, so I have about 15 years of experience. When I started, I said, if I don't ask any money for my work, I won't have any problems. That was very naive, but I've stayed with iText for all those years, and I have 3 questions for you. One, so you have this community, all these guys have jobs because they have to make a living. I had a job, and at some point you become the victim of your success because all those people who use your software ask questions. You want to answer these questions, the community wants to answer these questions, but you just don't have the time, and people change jobs, leave the community, there's no continuity. And what I see, for instance, on Stack Overflow, if I look at the PDFBox questions on Stack Overflow, yeah, sometimes I have to answer them, or they will remain unanswered. So, how do you ensure support? Sure, people who use PDFBox don't have to pay, but in a sense they do pay because they invest in using the software. And how do we ensure that they have support, get support? Second thing I noticed, which was...
Can I answer the first question first, because otherwise I wouldn't remember the first question.
Okay.
Okay. I think everyone is free to make a commercial decision. Okay, so the commercial decision around PDFBox was to say, okay, the library itself is free and you don't have a license fee. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's free because, as you said, people need to invest their time and money into making PDFBox a better product. So some of the contributors, they use the library inside their own inside their company. So the company is paying through them in developing PDFBox because they are users of PDFBox. So some of these developers are paid, but they're not paid by Apache, they're paid by their employee. The other thing is that, of course, the support could always be better. Because if you have a question and you would like to have that question answered, you would like to have that answer immediately. But that's not the difference between a commercial software and an open source software. Because there are, let's say, good quality support in commercial software and there's good quality support in open software. The question whether it's paid or not, that doesn't matter. And one of the benefits for me from open source, from an open source perspective, is that people like you can answer questions on PDFBox. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's very good, and that you can contribute to that, and that you can help PDFBox users.
But one of the problems we had a couple of months ago was the Heartbleed problem, where the creators of Heartbleed, the creators of OpenSSL, they explained how they were trying to do consultancy work to get some revenue for OpenSSL, which was used by Cisco. All the big companies used it. And what you saw was that there was a contradiction. They have to do professional services to gain money, but there's no incentive to improve their product, because if their product is that good that they can't sell any support or any professional services anymore, they throw away their job. So that's I've been there. Now, a second question. So handling support was one important issue why we evolved from free as in free gear to commercial open source. Second one was legal. Now, I know that Apache is covered by that. They have the CLA, ICLAs, and the CCLAs. But what about the patents? So Adobe has listed all the patents from PDF that they have and that, well, they have and that they allow other people to use those patents for free, but there's a condition. People are allowed to use, so Adobe licenses their patents to people to create something like PDFBox on condition that you follow the specs. Do you have some quality control guy who goes to the ISO meetings? Because you talked around this morning, he said, well, at the ISO meetings we asked, is this what was meant in the specs? Because it's that many pages. Do you have somebody who is kind of the quality assurance guy who makes sure that everything is done according to the patents?
I think.
It's not an issue anymore since 2008. And we turned PDF over, all the relevant patents fell under the ISO patent policy.
But still, the question remains: do you have? So we talked about PDFs that are created and that are wrong. What do you have somebody who follows this? Because you said PDF 2.0, we will start working on it if there's a demand.
Yeah, but that's a different question. As I said, the target of PDFBox is not to have a full coverage of the PDF specification. The target of PDFBox is to say, okay, we give the community or the people who would like to use it a library which supports their use case. And that's, so we don't need to have full coverage of PDF2. No, but the other question, to answer the other question, I don't think it's necessary to have somebody sitting at the ISO meetings, because people can buy or can buy the specification and read through the specification and make sure that that we follow the specification. And that's part of our testing. As I said, there might be errors, and there might also be something like, okay, there's room for interpretation around the specification, and then that needs to be resolved. But the PDFBox library is developed in line with the PDF specification, and that's the tool we're trying to test with. We don't have to be at the ISO meetings.
And the third question I want to ask, what I've noticed is that when we started converting users into customers, it's a completely different world. A user, he will ask something and he isn't committed. So you spend weekends after weekends to do what this user asked, and then you ship it, and then maybe you get the question, how do I use it? And you don't get any more feedback. So they just use it, and you spend all those weekends and you don't know what happened with your code. With customers, since we have customers, ITEX has been improving dramatically because we have this feedback and we really go into the use cases and we talk to these users. So how does PDFBox relate to that? They depend on companies with employees, and these companies have specific needs, but they also have specific politics. So don't you have the risk that the politics of one company will drive PDFBox in one direction, and then the politics of another company will drive it into another direction?
So I think that's first, I'm very happy that you're successful with ITEX, and the decision you made were the right decisions for you. I also understand the frustration working through the weekend and not getting a thank you from your customer. But that's a general issue of working within a community. Yeah? It's always the case, if you help the community, that people can say thank you, or some people will say, okay, we take it and move on. And so the people who are working on the PDFBox project, as well as other community-driven projects, they are happy with the job, and they are prepared to work on that and to put the effort into that. And we as a company, we work both with closed source software and with open source software. So I also understand the differences of the business models, and I was working for companies like Adobe for several years, So I understand the different business models and what's driving them, but PDFBox made its decision, and I think we're very happy with the decision.
My experience is that you have some contributors like Polo, I don't know where he is up there. Polo is a contributor since 2000, and so he was a faithful contributor. He's here today. But what I noticed that the bulk of contributors, they contribute until a certain level, and then it becomes too difficult for them because PDF isn't really it's a huge stack, and so it's very hard not to have half work into your library. What I saw with iText was that I accepted contributions in the hope that the contribution would result in a finished functionality. But we now have to clean up because we see a lot of half-finished stuff that we need to throw away because the contributor didn't have time or didn't understand what he was doing. So that's one of the dangers.
Okay.
Just a remark, not a question.
No, thanks a lot. Question? Yeah.
More of a follow-on to the question. So we could go to the microphone, please.
Oh, sure. This is more of a commentary or follow-up to the issues that Bruno just brought up. The three questions that you brought up are questions that every open source project has to fix. Every single one of them. And the marketplace has already decided the answers to those. And that is a open source and non-open source question. Many customers have already decided to go on open source. So I don't think there's anything specific about PDFBox that's any different from any other open source project. And the marketplace has decided. And it's a worthwhile pursuit. So that's the only comment I would put.
Thanks a lot. Okay, if there are no more questions, I think we have a break now.
So
Thank you very much.